Parashat Ki Tavo falls out in the middle of Elul, and interestingly enough, talks about Viduy Masrot. And Viduy Masrot, coming at the end of the cycle of Trumot Masrot, Ki techale la'aser et kol ma'aser tvuatcha b'shana hashlishi, shnat ha'ma'aser, v'natata lelevi lager le'atom v'almana, v'yachlu b'sharecha v'saveyu. V'yamarta lefnei Hashem Elokecha, ביארתי הקודש מן הבית, וגם נתתיו ללוי לגר ליתום ולאלמנה ככל מצוותיך אשר ציוויתני, לא עברתי ממצוותיך ולא שכחתי. I have not violated any of your mitzvot. I have not forgotten any of them. לא אכלתי בעוני ממנה, ולא ביארתי ממנו בטמא, ולא נתתי ממנו למת. שמעתי בקול השם אלוקי, עשיתי ככל אשר ציוויתני. I have not failed to keep the mitzvot. I've listened to Hashem, and I have fulfilled and done all the mitzvot that you have commanded me. השקיפה ממעון קודשך מן השמיים, וברך את עמך את ישראל, ואת האדמה אשר נתת לנו, כאשר נשבעת לאבותינו, ארץ זבת חלב ודבש. Please, in response to the fact that we've been mekayim all the mitzvot, please give us bracha. And this is very striking, because the vidduy that we're familiar with, particularly in the throes of Elul, is chatati, aviti, pashati. I boshti v'nechlamti, and I am utterly ashamed of my failure to live up to your mitzvot. And here, Viduy Masrot is the exact opposite. Right? It's called Viduy Masrot. It's not just has a name, but the pe'ula. Rashi says, "V'amarta l'fnei Hashem Elokecha hitvadeh shenatata masrotecha." Confess that you've given all of your masrot. How is this a confession? How is this Viduy? So the Sforno is so bothered by this that he finds a way to introduce an element of sin into the Meiser cycle and into the Viduy. Bi'arti hakodesh min habayit, bechatatenu u'ba'avonot avotenu husra ha'avoda me'habechorot, asher lahem hayu ru'uyot trumot u'masrot, v'zeu haviduy ma'aser she'ezkiru harabotenu. It's Viduy because we're confessing that ideally this whole system should have been different, and we should have been able to keep the Kedusha. We weren't able to live up to that expectation. We weren't able to keep the Kedusha or be worthy of having the Kedusha of Trumot Masrot remain in-house. And that's why it got moved to the Kohanim. And therefore, we're confessing to that failure. מודעני כי גדול עווני שגרמתי לבאר הקודש מן הבית, ואף על פי שנתתיו ללוי וזולתו במצוותיך, אני מתפלל שתשקיף השקפה לטובה במקום השקפה לרעה הראויה לעוני. And therefore I'm begging you, not hashkifa mimon kodshecha, I deserve this bracha, but I'm begging you that you should give us bracha even though we don't deserve it. The problem is that that's not the simple understanding of the psukim, and that's not the way the other mefarshim and the Gemara in Shabbos understand these psukim. They take it at face value, that you really are confessing that you've done everything right, and you are requesting, or almost demanding, bracha in return. So how do we understand this? How does this dovetail with what we know about Viduy and Shuva? So our understanding of Viduy and Shuva really has two approaches. The Rabbi Yonah and Shari Shuva explains that Shuva is really a way of bringing about charata, right? By verbalizing it, by really, acknowledging it, you're able to build a proper charata in the tshuva process. So it's a tool that leads to proper charata. However, the Rambam expresses Viduy as not just part of the mitzvah, but the mitzvah. The mitzvah of tshuva, says the Rambam, is that when you do tshuva, kishayase tshuva, v'yashuv micheto, that you're mitvadeh. The mitzvah, you do tshuva, and the mitzvah is then to be mitvadeh when you do so. The Mefarshim are very concerned by this, because shouldn't there be a mitzvah of tshuva? And one approach is to say that tshuva is too fundamental to actually be a mitzvah. It's a fundamental part of your relationship with Hashem. And the mitzvah of tshuva, of vidduy, is to really do vidduy, is to build upon that relationship. How? So I'd like to suggest that the idea of vidduy as something that's distinct from tshuva. You've already done tshuva in the Rambam's formulation. After you do tshuva, you need to do vidduy. The vidduy is really an audit of your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's really a way of taking a step back and saying, in verbally, an objective sense, sort of take it out of your own subjective feelings and say, this is what I've done, this is what I've accomplished, this is what I failed to do, and here's how I can fix that or build upon that. It's really a central theme. That's really what vidduy is about. It's about taking it from, I feel bad about this, you have to do vidduy and say, okay, let's take a step, an objective view of this, and see what have I done wrong and how can I improve my relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But that goes two ways. You can have done something wrong and be building and say, well, what have I done and how can I build on my relationship? But you could also have done something right. You can audit your behavior, your activities, your kiyum mitzvos, and the result can be it can be an opportunity to say, these are the things that I've done wrong. Here's how I can improve upon them. But here are the things that I've done right. And here's how my relationship with Hashem is actually on good ground. And here's where I can build further upon a good foundation. The Rashi, several places, right, says hashkifa b'chol makom is l'ra. The word hashkifa always implies that there's some sort of overlooking, bad judgment happening, except for one place, and that's the hashkifa here. Hashkifa mimon kodshecha is a hashkafa l'tova. And the question is why? Why is hashkafa always considered bad except in this one context? And I believe the answer is that hashkafa is this idea of looking down from a high place, right? Vayishkof al pnei yisimon, you're looking down and viewing and judging the people down below. But that judgment can be positive or negative. Once again, you could judge the people of Sodom, or, as Bilam did, he can judge Am Yisrael and find them to be far and above the greatest nation on earth at the time. That really this idea of judgment, on the one hand, can come out with a negative judgment, but can also come out as something positive. And not only that it can be something positive, but judging oneself and one's relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and using that as the springboard for further development. But whether you say, well, I'm doing these wrong and I need to improve there, or I'm doing this right and I can improve upon that, I can build upon that, is key both to tshuva and elul, but also to tshuva and vidduy ma'asros. And I think that can not answer a question that I think bothers many of us, which is how could it be that b'makom shabali tshuva umdim tzadikim gemurim einam yacholim la'amod ba? Is it possible that someone who really has dedicated their whole life to avodas Hashem is incapable of achieving absolute mastery of avodas Hashem without having sinned? Right? Should there be a point where you say, okay, I need to do some sin so that I can become a Baal Tshuva, so that I can really maximize my avodas Hashem? And the answer is that, especially according to the Rambam, to be a Baal Tshuva isn't about having sinned and having returned from those sins. Being a Baal Tshuva is very much connected into vidduy, to this idea of being someone who is evaluated where they are and being Shuva Hashem ad Hashem Elokecha, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha, returning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, to get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that evaluation of seeing where you've gone wrong and vidduy of where you've gone right. Wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.